Just getting started or feeling stuck? Wherever you're at, the VO Dojo is here to help you take your voiceover career all the way. Get the training, support, and connection you need to guide you every step of the way. From I don't know to working pro. You get a rock-solid foundation and all the tools you need for your sustained, successful voiceover career. Mindset, skill set, and real-world experience, all in a hands-on, hearts-in, supportive community. Join us at thevodojo.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the VO Dojo's 21 Questions. We are so excited to welcome back Ronnie Butler, audiobook.
Hi, everyone.
Audiobook narrator extraordinaire. He's going to be doing our You Should Do audiobooks intensive this summer, and will be joining us for Ask the Sensei. And we wanted to just be able to ask him some questions about who you are and kind of what your origin story is and your philosophy around your work. So that when we're on Ask the Sensei, then we can focus on answering people's questions.
Others' questions, yeah.
We'll know all about you. So, welcome, Ronnie, and let's
Thank
start
you.
with the questions. So first, what is your one-word check-in for today?
Hear that breath. I think the word is surrender.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, that's today. That's this moment.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And where are you from?
I'm originally from the Bahamas.
Very nice, very nice. And where do you live now?
Palm Springs, California.
Sunny in a different way.
But with palm trees.
And what would we know your voice from?
Almost entirely from audiobooks. I've done very little voice. I've done some voice work outside of it, but mostly from my work in audiobooks.
Any particular highlights, like from last year, maybe?
Yeah, I think last year is probably the career defining sort of performance, which would have been, it's a nonfiction biography called Baldwin, A Love Story by Nicholas Boggs. It is about 700 pages on the page. It's about 24 and a half hours of audio.
Wow.
And it was just, it's a remarkable book, and it was a remarkable experience creating the audio for it. Yeah.
And it was recognized as the best nonfiction.
Yeah. So we won the Audie Award for biography and history.
Nice.
And certainly a career defining moment, and just absolutely thrilling. And every award it could have won as an audiobook, it did. So I'm just thrilled about that.
That's very cool. Let's see, how long have you been doing voiceover?
I'd say 15 years now. Yeah, 15 years now.
Very cool. And who is your current team? I'll let you define that. That might be representation, that might be assistance, that just how, because I think so much of this business now is that we are supposed to do everything absolutely alone.
Yeah.
And the reality is that we don't actually do anything really alone.
Yeah.
So how do you interpret that? Who's your team?
Well, in the audiobook business, it's really rare to have agents and managers. If you're doing it full time. I mean, if you're a TV star, or if you're doing other kinds of voiceover work and have representation, sometimes if they're seeking very specific kinds of backgrounds for people, they'll go to agents and managers for that. But most of this work is found where there's no gatekeepers. You have a direct relationship with all the producers, which are basically the casting directors. So I don't have a team like that, and I do all my negotiating, and my team really is peer driven. I have a team of I'm on sort of a WhatsApp group with or a group thread with two peer narrators who are both sort of at my level of work, who I go to discuss anything and everything about work, about my rates, about negotiating, about problems I'm having with a particular project. Um, Also for coaching, both narrator wise, both performance wise and business wise. I
Mm-hmm.
have my colleague at narrator.life, which is Andy Arndt, and she's a peer, and she's similarly a part of my team in terms my go-to in terms of business coaching. You know, um, I have my money team. I have people that I've gone through different courses where I've learned more about money and money management and money manifestation and all those kinds of things. And I have an accountability group that I go to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and they're a part of my team. Um, I belong to a couple of small groups that are around support for caregiving, because I'm starting to enter the stage where I'm starting to do some caregiving for my mother, which is only going to take more of my life, more of
Mm-hmm.
my resources and time, and I need support around that. Um, so I think uh, that's a
Mm-hmm.
slice. There's one more
That's
that just crossed my mind, but I can't recall what it is right now. But anyway, yeah, that's
yeah,
my team.
very good,
Yeah,
very good. It really is. We can't and don't do this alone. So,
yeah.
in terms of your technical setup, what is your recording setup now? What's your booth like? What equipment do
Yeah,
you
I
have?
have a custom studio brick. So the studio brick booth comes in a standard size of, I want to say it's like 3.5 by 5.5
Mm-hmm.
interior, I believe. That's sort of the standard that you get out of it. But I have something that's slightly bigger so that I can actually almost stretch arm to arm inside, and I can
Mm-hmm.
actually stand up inside it completely. Um,
Very cool.
and has a little bit more space. So that's my booth, and it sits inside a room by itself. So I have an
Mm-hmm.
extra bedroom, and the booth sits in the middle of it. Um, I have an Audio Technica 4047, I want to say. It's just a real workhorse of a mic.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Mac Mini, and a dummy monitor inside my booth. Everything is Bluetooth in the booth, and with an iPad, so that you don't hear any turning pages, you don't hear any clicking, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
all done quietly. And I have a United Audio 𝗍𝗶𝗆 Arrow interface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's my setup. And I record on Reaper. I used to do
Mm.
Adobe Audition, but I was paying for way more than I needed to. And Reaper is just amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've been using Reaper now for about 2 years.
That's cool. And
Yeah,
Reaper, I always think of it as something that is like an audiobook go-to.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say your voiceover origin story is? How did you get started?
I originally started pursuing voiceover because everybody kept telling me you should do voiceover, you should do voiceover. And I took a couple of voiceover classes before I knew you in the dojo, because I didn't meet
Mm-hmm.
you until I was already doing audiobooks.
Yeah.
But in the very beginning, and I had my agency, my legit agency, when I was doing TV work, hired a new commercial agent to head up there, and she was also a voiceover agent, and I'd been wanting to delve into it. And so I started doing voiceover auditions a lot, and booked a couple of commercial things and a couple of video games, but it never really hit for me. um and then one day I had lunch with a friend, an actor friend. I just come off of this Nickelodeon series, and was teaching and looking for work. And he said, he's like, have you ever thought of audiobooks? Because he was deeply in it as a
Mm-hmm.
side hustle. And he introduced me. I said yes. And he gave my resume to a man named Zach Harries, who at the time
Mm-hmm.
owned a studio called Mosaic, a business
Mm-hmm.
called Mosaic. And I went in and auditioned for Zach for a very specific book. And it was opportunity meets preparation and luck and all those things, and I got that job, and it just sort of started a snowball from there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
𝗵𝗃𝗏 now owns Mosaic. She bought it from Zach.
Mm-hmm.
He is no longer in the audiobook business, and in fact lives out here in Palm Springs, and I see him
Oh,
socially
wow.
almost every week.
Full circle.
Um, but that was how my journey, my real journey in audio, I would say, was started with audiobooks, and that's how it started.
Mm-hmm. And Amy connected us. You came
That's right.
and did a
And
fun
Amy
class.
was actually really instrumental. In fact, after I won the Audie, I called her to thank her
Mm.
because I had a turning point where I was nominated for an Audie for a book that I had done. This is very early on in my career. This is the first, second, or third year of my career, and I had done this book with another narrator. We'd done it together, and I had no idea what the Audie meant. I hadn't even paid attention to it. It merely made a blip on
Mm.
my email. And when I mentioned this to Amy, she said, this is an opportunity for you. You could use this as a springboard to really dive into this industry if you
Mm-hmm.
do it right and if you want to. And I said yes, and she sort of became my champion. And
Mm-hmm. She's
and
very
we
good at
all need one,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's when everything really changed. That was the beginning of me being a full-time narrator and really diving in.
Yeah, and you have a powerful and extensive background, not only in on camera but in theater and
That's
directing as
true.
well. Can you share a little bit about that? Because
Yeah.
yeah, hmm
Yeah, I've lived in DC, New York, LA. And when I was in DC, I had a real full-time job, a real job,
hmm
corporate. But I'd always wanted to study acting, and I started studying acting and ended up doing a couple of community theater jobs, and then I got a professional job at the arena stage in the chorus of a show, and I decided I wanted to study acting. And um, a wonderful story, but too long for what we're doing here. Through a wonderful series of events, I ended up studying with the Atlantic Theater Company, and that precipitated a move to New York after I was invited to join the company. And I spent 12 years in New York doing theater with them and also doing regional theater and musicals in New York. Um, and then moved to LA, when I was also doing theater and
hmm
then eventually broke into TV.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
that's
did a lot of, and I trained with them a lot. I taught with them, and then I taught when I was in LA too, at AMDA, and I also taught through Pace University.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, an auspicious pedigree
Yeah.
there. What what um what would you say are the three top ingredients to your success?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a great question. Mm. Perseverance, definitely one. Boy, narrowing it down to three is hard. Perseverance. Um, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Confidence is the wrong word, but Bill Macy, William H. Macy, used to say, nobody, you are incredibly unique, and nobody can tell a story the way you tell a story. And it's up to you to be willing to tell that story the way you tell that story and
Mm,
not the way someone else would. And so many times when we get training, we're sort of trained out of ourselves, trained out of
mhm,
our authenticity, or trained to mimic other things. And it's very difficult to figure out who your voice is and what your voice is. But that is the thing that is the thing that's going to get you jobs. And if it doesn't get you jobs, that's okay, because you can't spend your life being in your head trying to be something for other people.
mhm,
So that ability to hone in and to be as authentic as possible, and embracing that regardless, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is what has helped me get to where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to be a creature of learning and
Mm.
accept learning, and being willing to face my own obstacles to learning. So my ego and my defensiveness and all of the issues around needing to be right, being willing and able to let those go enough to hear feedback in order to improve or to grow. I
Mm-hmm.
think would be
That's
the third.
huge. Beautiful.
I think would be the third.
Beautiful. Yeah. Now, I think you shared a little bit about the winning the Audi last year being sort of a pinnacle, a highlight. What would you say, and maybe your friend introducing you to the right people, what would you say would be a big break, or do you believe in big breaks, or how would you
Yeah, I
describe
mean, I
that?
believe, well, there are sometimes, yes, I believe in opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not they become big breaks is unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the combination of opportunity and intentionality,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, I mentioned it already, but I think the big break was this book that I did with
Mm-hmm.
Bonnie Turpin called Till the Well Runs Dry. And it was very early in my narration career. And it was nominated for an Audie Award. And that's when I had this
Mm-hmm.
interaction with Amy. And that was a turning point. I had a choice, right? I was still getting a little bit of TV work. You know, I was doing a patchwork of financially sustaining jobs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and but it was a turning point because I knew it meant that I would be putting my entire focus here and not really pursuing TV anymore. And was I ready and
Mm.
willing to do that? Did I see something? It's something, and the voice was small, and it took me a couple of weeks because the voice was small, but the voice said, this is the way. The
Mm.
door is open here. And are you willing to go where the door is open? Because people are hearing something. The universe is telling you something. This is the easiest work has ever come to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
also the least anxious I've been about work and the freest I've been about work.
Mm-hmm.
And so listening to the inner voice, the intuition, and also looking at the facts of opportunity. And that was a turning point. And so the big break was something that I sort of built, based on
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. And so I said yes.
That's
That
huge.
really that has changed my life. It changed my life.
Mm-hmm. That's
You know,
powerful.
yeah,
Powerful.
it completely changed my life. So I think that is deserving of the moniker of a big break because
Mm-hmm.
it changed my life. It made me more, it made me more financially stable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm still a freelancer, and I still have
Mm-hmm.
downturns and empty months sometimes. I have to hustle more than I did then because the industry has changed,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So if I were to add a fourth item to the things that have made me most successful,
Mm-hmm.
made what I believe make me successful, I think it would be the ability to pivot, the ability to
Mm-hmm.
see changes and to go, okay, I'm not going to push against that. I'm going to pivot where the door is open. I'm going to look for
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, and I'm good at that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, Side note, I think Bonnie was in the first the show that I worked on to get my SAG card.
Really?
Girls in Prison with with John
A theater?
McCain.
Oh, a side card. So a TV show,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
movie?
yeah. But Bonnie was on that set. Yeah, that's
Wow,
cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Now, how long was it from starting your voiceover to making your full-time living at voiceover? I always think this is a really important thing for people
Yeah.
to know that it's not necessarily that, da-da, it's done.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, my knee jerk is I want to say 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah. And that was with real diligent focus.
Right. Yeah. You
Yeah.
said this is what
This
I'm
is it.
doing.
And
Yeah.
like, meeting people and going to the mixers and doing the networking and doing the reach outs and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do want to say too, though it's also time bound in that the it's different depending on what year and what time you're looking at, right? It took me
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 years, but I was also right in a sweet spot of it was before audiobooks were as huge as they are now.
Right.
It was way before the pandemic when you didn't have other actors who had nothing to do looking for opportunities elsewhere and deciding they wanted to do audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a time when there were hardly any people of color doing audiobooks or available to do audiobooks. The amount of books compared to the number of people of color available to do those books written by people of color or about people of color in their histories,
Right.
there was just like there was endless work, right? So there was certain amount of opportunity that happened because of that made it quicker. I
Right.
think now it would
That's
take, I
it.
think now, I think it now would take longer. But once again, it depends on what skill set you're bringing into it,
Mm-hmm.
what level of experience and how much need there happens to be for you when you start knocking on the door. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good, good, good. We might have covered this as well, but what are you proudest of in your voiceover career?
Oh, I would say definitely the Baldwin book.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. I
Yeah.
feel like I looked at that and it was like a scene in the movie where everyone's like has tears coming out of their eyes because it's like yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
punch the hat, punch your
Definitely.
boater hat.
There,
Yeah.
there's one. I mean, there's so many books. So I've done several hundred, many
Well,
books.
yeah.
But another book that comes to mind, and this is probably more because of the content of it, but also the performance of it is a young adult book called King and the Dragonflies. And I
Mm,
think it's a remarkably beautiful book, and I'm very, very proud of the work I did in it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love. I know we're keeping we're not answering all the questions about everything, but I also love when you share the parts of your story that you got your break being part of a niche, filling the African American aspect,
Mhm.
taking your Caribbean background, leveraging that, and then really making a move into young
Yeah.
people's literature, which is so important, so
Yeah.
important.
I mean,
Uh,
that's a whole, I teach whole classes about
hmm
that transition and how one does it,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah,
yeah.
it's great. Um, what's your biggest fear or challenge in your voiceover career?
Listen, I've never asked myself that before.
Which might be one of the ingredients of your success.
Yeah, my biggest fear. Um, my biggest fear. Yeah, I don't. Well, so biggest means it doesn't have to be huge, means out of all of the fears that I have.
We can
Um,
interpret, yeah.
yeah. God, that's a good question. What do I get afraid of? I think, I mean, one thing is that always exists in the work is not getting to the point and when you're good, not going on autopilot.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
the push to stay authentic, the push to not rely on tricks, you
hmm
know, I would say that's what it is. That there is always the temptation to sort of go on autopilot, and how to constantly sort of tweak, stay present, push to still grow, and at the same time remain in balance,
Hmm.
and be good to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now more than ever with the threat of AI,
Right.
if we're on autopilot, we
That's
might as
right.
well just have that to it. So
Yeah.
that's really powerful. Introvert or extrovert?
Oh, extrovert, definitely.
Cool. Which is fascinating because particularly in audiobooks, you spend a lot of time alone
Alone,
in
I
your
know.
box. So
Yeah.
I always find it a very fascinating question to see how
It's
people
actually, and
love and
actually, I
share.
would I would I would say that the majority of narrators are introverts. The
Mm.
majority.
Hmm.
Um, those of us that come from the theater, and sort of a more active acting background tend to
Hmm.
be more extroverted.
Yeah.
But many people come to this from other places. They haven't
Hmm.
studied theater, they haven't studied acting necessarily,
Hmm.
um, but they are natural storytellers, and sometimes they're very much more introverted.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, you live in kind of a destination where people are like, I dream of being there. But if you could do voiceover from anywhere, where would it be? Are you where you would like to
Oh,
be, or would you like to have other places too?
absolutely, and not just one place. I mean, my one of the things I like about this work is my plans for semi-retirement are to be able to work, in anywhere.
Hmm.
So if I when I get to the point where I'm okay, I'm gonna take my Social Security and then still maybe work, do, a book a month or something,
Hmm.
that I would
Hmm.
do that back home in the Bahamas. I would do it in
Ooh,
Costa
yeah.
Rica, where my sister lives, where I could visit. I have friends in Finland, in the Netherlands, in Spain.
So it's more where wouldn't you like to do
Exactly.
voiceover
No,
from? That's
exactly. My
beautiful.
plan
Yeah.
is to and could I'm also work as a mindset and transformation coach, as sort of a niche of
Hmm.
or a niche of life coaching. And both these careers together I think will allow me to work from remotely as a digital nomad, and I plan to do that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So the
Beautiful.
places I named are places that I would start, but
Hmm.
they're all the places on my bucket list to travel would be places that I would plan to do that.
Fantastic. Love it. What would you say your VO motto is?
Oh gosh. Breathe deeply, let go, and ride the impulse.
Whew. Excellent. That's like tattoo worthy. Put that on your forearm. Breathe deeply. Say the second one again. Breathe
Let
deeply.
go,
Let go and ride the
ride the
impulse.
impulse.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And I know each day varies, but
Mhm.
when you're working on a book, what is a typical day for you? How do you manage? I think that's one of the interesting, um, not a dilemma about audiobooks, but a requirement of audiobooks is
Mhm.
that it requires chunks of time, consistent
Yeah,
chunks of time. But
yeah.
what's a typical day for you when you're working on a book?
A typical day in the booth for me is sort of 10 to 12, más o menos, and then one to five,
Okay,
right?
so a morning chunk,
A morning chunk,
a
a
morning
lunch
chunk,
break,
and
and
a
an afternoon
and a
chunk.
longer chunk in the
Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah.
And what I tend to do in the mornings, because I wake up pretty early, what
Hmm.
I tend to do is all of my sort of admin, my emails, my, whatever it is, the gym, the walk, the running around. I try to do all that stuff. I try to be in the booth by 10 and
Yeah.
I do all that
And
stuff before 10.
recognizing that how important that is, gym and walk is moving your body because the work is being
Absolutely.
still. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And yeah, because I also have like a whole, physical therapy warm-up protocol, for various injuries I've sustained over the years that I'm only now starting to compensate for and realign myself and all that kind of stuff. And all of that takes time, but it also protects me when I'm at a job where I'm sitting down for 5 or 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
So that's a typical day, and getting up periodically to take breaks, to stretch, to move, to open the booth door and get some fresh air, um, to hydrate regularly, keeping water in the booth, drinking. I know some people who take a sip every page, but keeping all of that, being very mindful of that, and just stopping when it's time to stop. Because it's really easy. It's really easy for me to not to be out of balance and to work, 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 work. And I've gotten better with the voice goes, you know what? I know you want to get to the end of that chapter, or I know you want to get to the end of this section, or I know blah, blah, blah. But you know what? You're done. You're done for the day.
Yeah.
Your body's done. And listening to that and closing shop. And sometimes that happens at 4, 5, right? But that's a typical day.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting because when you listen to a book, there are times when you can hear like, oh, that was the end of the day, and this was the beginning of a day.
Yeah.
Like you can
You
totally
can hear
hear
the
where
difference in energy. And
yeah. Good. And last question, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Oh, there's so many things, Tish. Can I do two? One would be a
Yes.
business one. Okay, so the performance one would be, you remember how to play. You know how to play. You just have to remember. You know how to play. And ultimately, the inside of this is all about play, right? It's just that sometimes the playground is the size of a sandbox, and sometimes it's the size of a house, and sometimes it's the size of a stadium. And you have to play within those bounds accordingly, but don't forget to play, because that's what it's about. And the business side of it that I would tell myself is, and it's the biggest regret I have about my work in both theater and TV, which is this, it's a relationship business, and you must invest in the relationships. And if you can't do that, if you have a block around it, if it's an obstacle for you, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen for you. It's just going to be a lot harder, and it may not happen as much. I think I would have had a much bigger career if I would have gone to more events, shook more hands, gone to the parties, done the things that I do now in my narration career, that I didn't do in the TV career, for example. Because I couldn't be bothered, because I was above it, because I didn't think it was necessary, because I wasn't hungry in that way, because it bored me. Whatever my reasons were, it may have been because underneath it all, I was scared and living too small. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why, but I know now that it's very important, and I coach people pretty strongly about doing it and how to do it and how valuable it is, because it just is. It makes a difference in your career.
Yep.
It's a relationship business, and people
Absolutely.
are relationships.
Yeah. And I think it's relationship with yourself, having
Oh,
great
good point.
relationship with yourself, and then getting out there and connecting
Yeah.
with the people who are doing the things because you are one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Ronnie, thank you so much for taking time
You're
to
welcome. Thank you. It's good
share
to
a
see
little
you.
insights into your journey. We'll see you on Ask the Sensei, and super looking forward
Yeah,
to
me
having
too.
another amazing. You should do audiobooks coming up in
In
August.
August.
Yeah,
I'm looking
so
forward to it. All
yeah,
right.
we'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.